And William, I believe I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you all for being here today. Just to give you the shape of today's presentation, I'll give you an introduction to our exhibition, which opens today, and then turn it over to Sunny to present more about her work, and then she and I will lob back and forth a few questions before turning it over to you to ask some questions that you may have. All this in under an hour. All right, so thank you again, Elizabeth. It really is my distinct pleasure to introduce you all to Light, Space, and the Shape of Time. This is a homegrown exhibition here at the Albuquerque Museum that draws heavily from our permanent collection, as well as enjoys a lot of support from our friends in galleries and collections in Santa Fe, as well as notably the Toma Foundation out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, who gave us several significant loans that have never been seen in the Southwest, and many of our own works, our own deep holdings in this area, have not been seen in years, so it really is a pleasure. To get us started, I wanted to share a quote by art historian George Kubler, whose book, The Shape of Time, came out in 1962, at the exact moment the light and space movement took shape in Southern California. Kubler says, "Let us suppose that the idea of art can be expanded to embrace the whole range of man-made things, including all tools and writing, in addition to the useless, beautiful, and poetic things of this world. By this view, the universe of man-made things simply coincides with the history of art. It then becomes urgent to devise better ways of considering everything men have made." I share this because what you're going to see in this exhibition, if you haven't been yet, is fairly non-traditional art materials and unexpected juxtapositions of ideas and objects. It all took shape in 1960s California when light and space artists began using new materials like plastic, glass, fluorescence, and neon lights to explore how we see and experience the world. Their experiments with light, color, and reflections transformed traditional definitions of what art is and can be. Instead of making paintings or sculptures, they created glowing, colorful objects and immersive spaces that created the feeling of stepping into another world. Really, Los Angeles was a special place at this moment. Los Angeles and the surrounding area developed into a global capital of advanced scientific research, aviation, and aerospace engineering at this time. Concurrently, artists drew inspiration in myriad ways from scientific findings regarding the nature of physical structures, forces, and systems shaping the universe from the subatomic to the cosmic scales. Within the broader history of West Coast abstraction, a particular vein of artistic production emerged as artists turned to the field of science and engineering for insights and inspiration. It's how we get works like this by Robert Irwin, titled Lucky You. This is actually from 2011. Here, the artist, who is one of the forerunners of the light and space movement, shows us a grouping of 13 vertically configured fluorescent bulbs that he actually titled, each of those colors he gave names to. He called them lavender, jade, avocado, orange. What do you have when you have lavender, jade, avocado, and orange? You have a landscape. You have essentially the Southern California agricultural fecundity on display here in a very abstract, unexpected way. It's how we get works like this by Larry Bell, titled The Cat. This is from 1981 in our own collection here at the Albuquerque Museum. It's a really phenomenal, spectacular, huge, and fragile work. It has been with us since 1989. Most recently was on loan to the Phoenix Art Museum for the Larry Bell Retrospective, where it held court there, and we are so proud to see it on display there, and equally proud, if not more so, to have it here with us again now. For those of you who have been into the exhibition, I think you'll agree that it really does anchor the entire exhibition. It sits solid and confidently in the middle, and is really just such a happy moment for us to be able to display this. Larry Bell's famous, of course, for his glass sculptures, often taking the form of these cubes, and I want you to take notice when you go into the gallery of the special effects that you experience when circling this work in space. Don't just look at it from one angle. It's fun to look at it from certain angles when you see the other works in the room refracted through it. You'll see 9 of the Dan Flavin sculpture suddenly cascading throughout the work. But take a step to your right and all that disappears, and it's just your half reflection in that glass. It goes from near 100% transparency at the top to almost complete opacity at the bottom. And he achieved that through the application of a special chemical process that he developed using something called Inconel, which is actually a superalloy that combines nickel and chrome and is vaporized to apply evenly across the surfaces of these large rectangular pieces, not on the triangles that adorn the corners, just on the rectangles themselves. So really just a gorgeous and mystifying sort of phenomenon that you notice in that. This exhibition also features Peter Alexander and his waterfall on the left, as well as James Turrell's Untitled Hologram on the right. And Helen Pashkin's Untitled Peach Lens. I was informed this morning that not everyone is sure that they can go beyond the black curtain into the room that is built in the gallery where this one work is housed. I'm here to tell you now, you can slip behind those curtains, and please go in there and check it out, spend some time. I actually don't want to over-describe this work. I want you to sit in front of it and experience it yourselves. But I think that you'll find that it's really special for its durational quality. The requirement that you spend several minutes with it to experience the sculpture fully. As you'll notice, many of these works by the pioneers, the forerunners of the light and space movement, are from fairly recent years. Most of them in the last 10, 15, 20 years, not the beginnings of the movement in the 1960s. This show doesn't claim to be or attempt to be a comprehensive overview of the light and space movement. It's really an exhibition about nothing less than how we perceive the world around us. Its textures and atmosphere, shadow and light, and the potential of the objects with which we surround ourselves, whether it's an artwork or these windows that are covered up to our side here, or the chair that you're sitting on. All of these have the potential to affect us on a fundamental level, this exhibition argues, to change our perspective and mood, and to take a larger view of things as a whole field of dynamic interactions and associations. In his treatise on painting, Leonardo da Vinci suggested you could find new ideas by looking at stains on a wall. Although, he said, it seems of little import and good for a laugh, the practice is nonetheless of great utility in bringing out the creativity in some of my finest inventions. It's in this vein that we chose to showcase in this exhibit not only the first artists of light and space, but also those who came after them. We highlight how new ideas in science and technology from a wide diversity of artists continue to shape the style of art today, emphasizing all the while the unmistakably and enduring roles that New Mexico's unique landscapes and atmosphere have played in inspiring many of these artists. The objects presented here are not arranged chronologically. Instead, they're grouped by experience, reflecting the idea that time is not always linear. These pieces interact with each other in different ways, creating a space where visitors can feel and think about light, space, and time with hopefully new perspective. As I said, we really tried to ground this exhibition in the special place that New Mexico has in this larger movement. And we begin right away with this work by Albuquerque-born Leo Villarreal. Villarreal is probably most famous for his large-scale electric light works that adorn public structures around the globe, including the River Thames across all the bridges, and notably here in the US, the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, where he embellished 1.8 miles of the western side of that bridge with 25,000 white LEDs that are perfectly synchronized to flow in this really elegant pattern from dawn till dusk every day. Here we have a much smaller work of his, but no less captivating and virtually on the scale of something like a Rothko. I encourage you to get up close if you can stand the brightness of it and really experience what is a non-repeating sequence of lights. And I emphasize the non-repeating. This is not a pattern. This is not something that has ever been seen before or will be seen again. And I like that we're starting in that sense with this work in the middle of things, not the beginning of the movement and certainly not the end of it, but right in the middle of things, like stepping into the same river, but flowing constantly so that you are never actually stepping into that same space. You are enjoying and appreciating, experiencing something that no one else ever will again. Santa Fe-based artist Michael Naminga is also featured in this exhibition with his work Altered Landscapes 18. This is a work from last year, and I want to underscore the really strange and wonderful medium of this work. It's a dye sublimation print on shaped aluminum. This is a photograph, in other words. And I want you to see what this looks like in person. Your eyes may be deceiving you, what you see on the screen here, and then when you go in the gallery, it may be a completely different effect. So I look forward to hearing what that is for you. But Michael uses these works in what he describes as a sort of non-confrontational way of drawing attention to the special effects of atmosphere in New Mexico that are not always romantic or idealized, but rather the results of pollution that is endemic here in New Mexico, especially in the Four Corners area around Chaco Canyon. It's estimated that 140,000 New Mexicans live within a half mile of a gas pipeline, and as a result are subject to the deleterious effects of methane gas and other pollutants, which cause respiratory issues and all kinds of ailments. So again, it's not antagonistic, it is just presenting to you the possibility that we have beautiful sunsets in New Mexico for all kinds of reasons, not just because of our clean, clear air or our high altitude, but also these particulates that are in the air. Neil Ambrose Smith's work, Abstract in Your Home, is also featured in the exhibition right up in the front room, directly after Michael's work. This work has been in our collection for some time, and some of you will recognize it from the northeast corner window of the museum over here on Mountain Road near 19th Street. It was on display for a good long while before, unfortunately, a couple of the tubes broke and had to be repaired, and so we finished that a few months ago and waited for this moment to bring it back and reveal it once again. Again, I'm not going to belabor all of the fascinating dimensions of these works. My mantra to myself, my returning coda, is don't over-explain this exhibition. I want you to take what you will from this work, from this message, from the aura of red light that it casts, and I won't embarrass him in case he chooses to remain low profile, but Neil is among us today, so thank you, Neil, for being here. Albuquerque-born, Santa Fe-based August Muth is also featured prominently in this exhibition with two of his holographic light etchings laminated in glass. I showed this, what we call the tombstone, the basic information of the work, to August, and I said, is this right? And he said, not etching, etchings. It's very important to understand that these are individually etched pieces of glass, panes of glass that are stacked behind one another to achieve the depth that you see. For those of you who have been in there, you've seen that this orangish, the green square, it's more green in person to my eye, seems to project out from the work a good 8 to 10 inches. And it's thanks to conversation with the artist, I guess about 2 weeks now, maybe a week and a half ago, he came down from Santa Fe to talk about the lighting. And we're so grateful for that really wonderful approach to these artists involved in this exhibition who want to be part of the conversation and are so particular and loving in how they want this work to be featured. Luckily, when August came, he brought a sample light with him, a light fixture that he would like to use if we possibly could. And our exhibition designer said, Stephen Hutchins said, oh, you mean these? And he said, yeah, exactly those. I thought this was going to be an hour-long conversation. It was about 8 minutes, and we were done. But he was delighted to see that we were able to feature his work in the way that he had hoped. I want to thank especially Alina from Pi Projects, who's sitting in the front row, for loaning these works to us. This show really does benefit from so many generous gifts of our colleagues around the city and around the state. Kumi Yamashita is an artist who you may know from her time up in Santa Fe. She was an artist in residence up there for a number of years, now located in Woodstock, New York, and originally from Japan. This work that you see here is really just a couple of slabs of wood and a stark light source, and yet it creates an anatomically realistic figure projected into the space. It is the image of the artist herself, which is unusual in her body of work and actually incidental, inconsequential to the artist that it happens to be her. She actually says that poetry dies in the specificity. It's best to keep it general, universal, so that it reaches the most number of people. You may recognize her work from the New Mexico History Museum up in Santa Fe. Some of you may have seen this. I see some nodding heads. These squares are all rippled as if you held a hairdryer too close to it and it started to melt a bit. Then you shine the light on it and suddenly the profiles of 40 New Mexicans are projected into the room and onto the wall. Really beautiful work titled Fragments. Very happy to have a piece of hers here. Barbara Bach is a long-beloved artist here in Albuquerque. Her Untitled Remnant is composed of photographer's backdrop paper. Early on when she was a part-time model, she would sit in the photographer's studio in that sort of hurry up and wait mentality and have hours to gaze around the room and imagine and contemplate the shadows and light that she was seeing, and saw these strips of paper, or rather the backdrop paper, and decided that she could cut them into strips and form her own sculpture. It hung in the artist's home for a number of years with a light bulb in the middle of it and her curtains draped around it. Then it became part of our permanent collection here, and we're really delighted to be able to pull this out and set it up on the wall once again. I think that Kumi Yamashita work, along with Barbara Bach's and now Florence Miller Pierce's, really are the shadow section of this exhibition for me. The place where the effect of the artwork on the space that surrounds you really is driven home. You see the aura of all the light pieces in the beginning, or the shadows cast on the textures of the wall around you, and it forces you to contemplate that it's, not just the artwork, but the space that you inhabit, and potentially how that artwork is affecting you, how you are affecting it, how the person standing next to you is also contributing to your experience of this. Maybe they're too close, maybe they're too far away. The temperature of the room, the humidity, the atmosphere, essentially. All of this, the artists of the Light and Space movement ask you to contemplate when you're looking at these works. And in a moment, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our guest artist, Soo Sunny Park, who will talk a bit more about her work, but I really do love this image that we have of the complete work. What you see here is a partial display of 11 of 21 modular units. The other 10 are on display at the Grand Palais in Paris. So we're very happy to have the lion's share of this work in a custom-built space just for this piece. It was a lot of fun to see Sunny setting this up. Sunny came in on Friday. Sunny hates her photo taken, so I'll take that down. She came in on Friday, and on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. we got started. Big shout out to our exhibitions crew and to our collections team. I see Ellen in the back. Thank you for your leadership during the installation of this exhibition. And to Stephen Hutchins, our exhibition designer, who, as luck would have it, came down with COVID on day 1 of install and had to remain at home for 10 days. That, for any of you who are in the museum or gallery world, you know how heartbreaking and stressful that can be. So glad that he stayed safe at home and got healthy and is feeling much better now, and was able to check on things toward the end of it. But because of his masterful planning ahead of time and how well trained his team and how capable our colleagues are, we launched into it at the same speed we would have otherwise. It really is amazing to work with this team, and I'd love to sing their praises whenever I can. So yeah, please. Thank you to our education team, Elizabeth Becker, Diana Delgado, Jody Vaneski, to my colleagues in Curatorial for all of their support, Alicia Romero, Magali Jimenez-Baca, and Audrey Bornman, and to our designer, Jen Montano, the rest of our collections team, Mira Christopher, Keith Lee, and all of the preparators who took part in this installation, including Nate, Amy, Scott, and Ted. And of course, to leadership of the museum, our director, Andrew Connors, who is as far-sighted as I could hope a director to be in pitching this idea and seeing it to fruition. I'll end on a final quote to kind of orient you further in the space that you'll go explore after this. It's by one of my favorite writers, Rainer Maria Rilke, from his book Letters to a Young Poet. He says, things aren't all so tangible and sayable as people would usually have us believe. Most experiences are unsayable. They happen in a space that no word has ever entered, and are more unsayable than all other things are works of art. Those mysterious existences whose life endures besides our own small transitory life. And also from one of my favorite songwriters of all time, Townes Van Zandt. I'm chained upon the face of time, feeling full of foolish rhyme. There ain't no dark till something shines. I'm bound to leave this dark behind. Thank you all for being with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. I just have some few images here, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm so honored to be in this caliber of work, and thanks to William for curating my work into this show. And I've had really amazing experience with really utmost professional art handlers and preparators, exhibition, and everybody that when we prepare work, we know everybody works at the museum. We all are artists too, so it's like have second jobs. I myself teach for a living, and I was also used to work for a museum doing art installs. So it's been really great to work with other artists who have staff positions here. So it's been really great. All right, I think I'm just gonna scroll through. So just have not a lot of images, but just some. I'm going to start with the statement I wrote when I created this work, and this is work from 2013 that is here, and is first featured as a capturing resonance. It used to have a sound to it, and it got moved to Houston, Texas, and I actually was told that I could bring one person to help me install, and I brought my fellow David Kruger, who was the head preparator at the Rice Gallery, and he's here actually installing this piece when I first installed it for me. So thank you, David. We see only what light reveals. In doing so, however, light itself stands aside. That's my husband in the photo. We don't notice light when looking so much as the thing that light allows us to see. This piece explores the light's potential as a structure element in sculpture. Unwoven forms of chain link fence fitted with the dichroic glass diamonds unweaves the light. Now we see it, the light, the purple shadows and yellow-green reflections that both mirror the shape of fence and restructure the space they inhabit. Fence and panes of glass are porous boundaries. They divide yours from mine, inside from outside, but both let the light pass through. These boundaries don't divide us or the space we occupy. Fence and glass divide the light. We pass among them as they force the light to show itself, to inhabit and structure our space. So about my work, my work used light and ordinary boundary materials, such as fencing, glass, metal studs, dry walls to expand and explore a variety of liminal spaces. Those between inside, outside, sculpture and drawing, seeing and showing, vision and perception, artifice and nature. Light is in many ways ultimate liminal being. Everything we see because of light. But we don't typically notice light itself. It is a mediator. Light is also main driver of life on Earth. All the forms of life we see are in some ways transformation of sunlight, in my work, light is not just a medium through which forms are seen, but what gives the work life. So a little bit about my background. I'm an immigrant. I immigrated when I was 9, 10. So my childhood was split between places, family and nations and languages. My parents immigrated from Korea when I was 10, but I could not follow them until I was 11. During that time, I was staying with extended family and had some existential crisis early on, and also recent years I realized I had a drowning experience. So when this was happening, I noticed that I felt separate from the world, also from my body. What could be the space between body and mind even be, I wondered. So for me, coming to US was one kind of reunification, but also with my nuclear family, but also is another kind of splitting I had to negotiate the world, which people spoke different language that I could not understand. So art for me always taking place between spaces, states, and categories. And my aim is to transform something seem ordinary into a sign of reflection and wonders. And these are some of the projects I did after COVID. This is the work that I did actually when I started at Cranbrook in 2000. I had a really great fortune of, I started there in 1998. And one of the first things that my teacher, Heather McGill, who's here, is that we took a trip out here, and this is the first time being back since '98. So we got to explore. We were here at Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and explore and saw the earthworks around the Southwest. Also camped out and saw amazing history of Southwest indigenous people that came before us. So it's really amazing to come back and be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you for sharing your work with us, not only the piece that's installed in the gallery, but all these other projects now. I didn't know that before you told me that that you had a recently remembered drowning experience. I found out that I had one too when I was about 5 years old. So I don't know how, maybe that's a common thing. Your work is so special for the light qualities. Oh, sorry, my microphone's on. Pardon. Is that working? Thank you. Your work is so special for the qualities of light that it engenders and exploits, that creates and takes advantage of. I remember in some of our earlier conversations, you said something that I had not realized, especially based just on the photos that I was working from initially before you came here, that the tiles in your work, the plexiglass tiles, are not differently colored tiles. Can you talk about how you created those and what that effect is that makes them seem like they're purple, green, yellow, blue?
Yeah, I think I've seen, I wanted to do a project where this idea of boundary, we see chain link fence and it's supposed to be like not there, but it's there, obviously dividing the space, and it's very kind of urban, suburban, not very attractive. And I used to see things get stuck on it, and you see a baseball games and you'll see that cups got stuck on it or things got stuck on it. So I wanted to do a project where there's this kind of some sort of translucent, depend on the viewing point, and the way that dichroic works. And I know there's a lot of artists that does this, but when I started this, I was thinking about, like, I've seen like Michael Jackson glasses or something that is, right? So I was searching, and I've seen as a kid too, there's these bags and, folders that has iridescent quality that's translucent. So I wanted to utilize something that that depending on the viewer's perspective and also the way that the light hits, it transmits different color. And it's the idea that not everybody sees it at the same way. So the way that the color transmits on this thing is that, you know, you and I would be looking at the same spot just because our angles are different, that we would see it differently. But when I started the project, I was interested in this idea of you have a concept of what you want, but then really, like, you can't over-calculate what nature is gonna really do. So originally the piece started with utilizing natural light. And the natural light, as the sun comes through, it'll just shift and creates different colors throughout the space. And so the piece was about using natural light that, you know, depending on the season, that whether it's southwest facing, and it will do different effects. So the work kind of does its own kinetic thing without myself controlling it. And then also this idea that we see it differently. And that was kind of the goal of the project when I started.
Have you manipulated the piece here or in other displays where natural light is not possible, either with just the treatment of the surface of the work or the gels used?
Yeah.
How do you account for the lack of natural light, which we unfortunately can't have in our gallery?
Yeah, so when I first created it, it was for natural light, but we came a long way. And I was telling you that I brought my friend, I made a friend through my first installation. And I was working with when there's no natural light, had to work with the lighting designers, because it really, you know, we are here with this light that indoor lighting is about 4,000 or lower in Kelvin, and natural daylight is 55,000 Kelvin, where blue and the warm is just kind of cancels each other to this white light. So most indoor spaces lit with that, and it really kind of affects the work very much as I wanted natural light to, you know, it's very bright. So yeah, and so when we started in 2013, LED light was not available. It was, now you could just pick up an LED light bulb and, you know, control it. So we've done a lot of different things with like blue light gels and things like that to control the color of it so that it's not, makes everything orange and purple, yeah. So, and so I forgot to tell the exhibition designer about the light temperature, so he was, at the last minute, we were able to put together this blue gel to create. And so, yeah, the temperature is very important. And when I do projects, it's really about, you know, yeah, it's interesting to, I mean, my own self as an artist, I have a lot of other artworks in the house. But when you have a temperature that is, you know, 4,500 or 5,000, it's like you're in the grocery store, like really, you know, it really drives you nuts. So it is lit with this warm temperature because, you know, it really kind of makes us feel calm. But unfortunately, the work requires is kind of a, yeah.
A lot of your works, including the one on display here, and many of these that you're showing us now are enormous. Do you live among your art?
No, actually, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, well, a lot of storage units and stuff, but I went to Columbus College of Art and Design, which is one of the few schools still practice Bauhaus-based education, and I had a great fortune of meeting a philosophy teacher named Susan Josephson, and she really, it was really influential for me to think about not all art the same, in a way that, you know, when you have a museum experience, we look at the forms for kind of the aesthetic reasons, but there's different works that are made at different cultures. There's work that was made during mimetic culture, and there's a work that was made during mythic culture, and here we are in theoretic culture with the writing. And that was very influential for me to really think about that, you know, when you make work, it stands for how you think about the space and time. And I didn't realize, actually, her mother is the Felicia Goodman. She has the institution in Santa Fe, and she's an anthropologist. So as a student, we were looking at anthropomorphic figures and things that are not meant to be seen as oh, look at these figurines that are, how creative the artist was to make these figures looks like they're half humans and half animals, and they are in this awkward position. But for her to educate us that when we make forms, it represents your own, who you are and your belonging in the culture. So that was very influential for me, and then to come to also work with Heather McGill and to see the earthworks. And really, I make forms that don't fall apart, but when I started making work, they were actually, I wanted work to actually fall apart, because one of the things that we did, that Heather took us, we went to Marfa, Texas, which is Donald Just Chinetti Foundation, and there was an article that was called Collect and to be Collected. And the way that the article talked about is that how artists always wants to be avant-garde, make new work, because, again, in order to survive as an artist, that, you want a work that is different than something that has already been collected by the collectors or collected by the institutions, and how that drives artists, this mindset of always wanting to create something new. And that was very influential for me when I started my first year at Cranbrook. So I actually did work that, like, it was paper fall apart, and so I made these works that used to be large. You put a lot of labor into creating something, and at the end, you show it for 3 months or 2 months, and there's nothing left, and structurally it's not stable. And then now, 30 years after practicing work, now I make work that is with a stainless steel glass that made to last. But yeah, I think that, yeah. I don't know if
That's fast.
long-winded question
No.
to answer. Yeah.
No, I appreciate so much you keying us to think about the broader historical, geographic, and cultural network of ideas that this exhibition can get us to think about. It was important to me to be more expansive, elastic in our definition of light and space, and to expand beyond just this area of California in a particular decade, and instead open it up to artists such as yourself, originally from South Korea, or Kumi Yamashita from Japan, several indigenous artists, and Latino artists. It was important to really blow open that definition of what can be encompassed by light and space. I think about that same idea too, just in relation to my own past research. And what I love about my role here and the ability to host exhibitions like this is that I get to be a generalist rather than a specialist. And my training is in pre-Hispanic art, on Aztec sculpture in particular, and I really can't imagine something more opposite Aztec sculpture than light and space art. But the topic of my dissertation was on liminal spaces in Aztec art, and particularly on unexpected, non-conventional, quote-unquote, abnormal bodies in Aztec art, what has been referred to as hunchbacks and dwarfs and invalids and grotesques, and figures missing limbs and things like that. What I discovered is that all of these figures consistently occupy transformational roles in transitory states.
Yeah.
They're in the margins and gutters of books. They're at the boundary of the urban center before you get to the wild hinterlands beyond. They hold that place in between worlds, and metaphysically as well, between life and death here in the world, the afterlife. So in that sense, I can really relate to your work on even more levels than I was expecting. You yourself call these works liminal beings, and for those not familiar with that terminology, I think of you can explain liminal spaces as sort of thresholds, places of crossing over, maybe even overcoming or undergoing. And I wonder if you can talk more about that concept. Particularly in relation to the very specific use of, as you said, chain link fence, which is normally something that demarcates space. It marks the here from the there, from you from me, and prohibited and open. Can you talk about that concept of the liminal spaces or transitory feeling that is invested in your work?
I think I became an artist or a sculptor because it's a challenge of like, for myself being an immigrant and always feeling kind of displaced a little bit. And I'm sitting here looking at all of you guys and I'm not seeing my own face. And first time I had that recognition, consciousness at age of 6, it's just like, you feel really alone, right? And then to think about, so I think for me, making something or being physical is to really ground myself in the physical world. And it gets to a point, I don't know, it's like that physical, how far can I push it? And this idea of something that you kind of conceived in your head to come to a fruition as something that you could actually physically touch, and then it's just like getting it out of your stomach to something that is tangible. And it's grounding for me because I feel like I've always been almost idealistic and just not really accepting my physical existence, the space. And so being a sculptor is all about that, to see like, okay, here is this material. I want to create this thing. How far can I really push myself? I mean, I look at these amazing structures and buildings and that what we create as a human, and of course I can't do that, but my own way in my own studio space to really kind of push that boundary and be able to, I mean, it's exhausting and physical, but in some way that it helps you, brings you back to the existence of the physical existence of things, as we, I don't know, for me personally have struggled a lot to feel like I'm always seeing the world from this filter, like my body is this almost like a veil. And that feeling of feeling that way as a kid for a long time. I mean, my parents left when I was 6, and then I came to US 9, and just always feeling like, and also I grew up in suburbia, Georgia, so I was like, when I got to Marietta, Georgia, they didn't even have ESL program. Like I was like the first one, there, and just the simple things that people were saying that I couldn't understand. So like I think making work is about like connecting with the physical world and then also accepting myself as a part of that world. And something that is, my work is not of anything, but to create something that is, like, what is it? People are like, what is it? I'm not trying to create, people say, oh, is that an ocean? Is it a school of fish? Is it, is this kind of forest or is this space? It's not of that. It's just I'm creating something that, it is what it is of that imagination that becomes physical, that we could all be, that be part of it. And there's nothing specific about it. And I love the idea that I'm not creating something that's supposed to be viewed in a certain way. I love this idea of different perspective and also natural light affecting the work that I just cannot pre-calculate. And so there's always a surprise element that I look forward to in the work that I hope that I get to, not become didactic. And things are changing. Now that I'm older, I feel like I'm repeating myself in a lot of work that I do, so yeah.
So create new work then.
Yeah.
All right, so we have just about 10 minutes left, and we'd love to open it up to all of you. If you have any questions for us, does anyone have some thoughts, reflections, questions they'd like to share? We have a microphone